Hey there, Tim Larsen here with another comic book creation tutorial for you. I hope you're having a productive year so far. Mine's doing great, with the last part of my Grind-House 1970s action adult level book called Mayfield 8 coming out in March. You can get parts 1 through 4 right now in my store site, links in the description below. You can also pre-order parts 5 and 6, which will be coming out later. Today's subject is a Photoshop one, so probably geared towards those of you who use Photoshop on a regular basis in making your art. Let's begin with the subject I'd like to tackle, namely working with layers and layer masks. Let's start with the basics. Photoshop can have an image that is made up of layers. The layers exist in a stack, one on top of the other. The layers can have holes in them, revealing what's underneath. The way I color a comic book page is to keep the line layers on top. I don't mess with them too much. It's the color layers below where I do my work. Here's a screenshot walkthrough video I want to introduce you to that shows you how I color an actual page from one of my comic books. Together, I'm going to show you the previous page, not the one I'm going to work on, but the one that happened before it, to kind of lead you into the story here. This is a story of the leader of a biker gang who's going to come back to his group and form a plan of what they're going to do over the next few days. Get a status report because he lost his clubhouse. In the first panel here, you can see how there's these ruins that he's looking at. That's the old clubhouse where they had this biker bar out in the country, and it blew up and burned to the ground a long time ago, like 2 years ago. And now he's forced to rely on a friend who's set up his house in the suburbs, his aunt's house. They're working out of the garage, so it's kind of humiliating. What's happened. Bitten fingers refers to this romantic tryst he had with this woman, and the last gesture she had was bite his fingers, and it was kind of something on the side. He was cheating on his wife with her, and so it's like a little bit of a backstory. So anyway, his name's Gary, and he's going to meet up with the rest of the Banshees. That's the biker gang. And the next page is the one I'm working on right now. This is written up in Illustrator. Let me shut off the words and shut off... There we go, and shut off the boxes, the balloons. So there's no talking here, so I guess you could call them boxes. You notice how this page, it's got a real simple look to it in some places here. Like, this is really, really simple and basic. Yeah, it's complicated on the face and everything, but I'll turn the title and the words back on, and you notice how it kind of comes together. There's points where you won't have to make it very complicated on your comic book page. It's better if it's simple, because right here, yeah, you got the words in the way, the sky, the clouds. I kind of kept them very basic, very simple, and like this area down here in the lower right, I didn't get very fussy with the ground or the background, and I knew that half of these lines, most of them are just going to get covered up. So that's something to think about when you pencil a page. Find a way to put it into your writing version with the script and everything on it. I prefer to just simply use Illustrator and work on it like the art is one layer by itself, and I'll pencil a page, scan that, turn it into a JPEG, and then throw that in, okay, and then work on the lettering with the penciled page. And that way I can go in when I'm busy finishing it, inking and coloring it. I can say, oh, okay, I need to like move this guy's head down an 1/8 inch, then it'll fit better with the word balloon, that kind of a thing. You can make the little edits very, very easy. That's not really the subject of this video, so I'm getting off track a bit. But anyway, I thought that would be helpful to kind of clue you in as to the finished product here. Okay, So let's go. This is USB overdrive. Alessandro Levi Montalcini. I'll leave you a link in the notes. This is one version where you can customize your mouse. I use the mouse to turn the scroll wheel into, I believe it's left brackets, right brackets. In Photoshop, left brackets and right brackets is the size of your brush. So I have that checked here, okay? That means anything I type, or if I use the mouse wheel, it's not going to go up and down. It's going to type left brackets and right brackets depending on which direction I use the wheel. And you ask yourself, well, why the hell do you want to do that? Well, I'm sorry. Here we go. Let's go. Photoshop. Here we go. So I'll choose the brush, all right? And I'll go into a layer, and I'm pulling the mouse wheel back. You see how the size of my brush got big? I'm moving it forward. See how it got smaller? And that way I can really customize the size of the brush. And yes, I'm just simply using the round circle brush tip. I'm not going to get into fancy brush angles, styles, or anything like that. That's not my my gig. That's not the way I do things. But anyway, okay. So we got the mouse wheel controlling the size of the brush. The brush down here has 6 choices I have. There's hard brush with hard edges. There's soft brush with soft edges. There's 50% hard brush, which means that it's only going to show you. Let me demonstrate here. I'll just create a whole new layer here and demonstrate. Okay, like I'll pick out red. All right, so here we go. That was at 50%. Here's at 100%. There, see? Okay. 50%. So you have a lot of control over what your brush will do depending on how you set it up. Let me describe to you the components of this page that's ready for coloring and the subject of the video, working with layer masks. You notice here I got 11 layers and each one has its own mask. Let me take the first layer here and I will disable the layer mask temporarily, and then I will shut off the line work and just have the color. Okay, here's what I did when I first started working on this page. I just went ahead and colored just like a kindergartner, not staying inside the lines, but just getting a very, I call it the rough color layer. And what I did was I took this layer and made 11 copies of it. All right? And on each layer, I have, on the top layers, I have a little bit of detail. On the layer underneath it, I have a little more detail and a little more detail until finally get it all filled out. And how I cut off the rest of it and just show the detail is by using a layer mask. So let me turn on the layer mask. There we go. Okay. So now you see how it's all these weird little things. You can see a motorcycle shape there a little bit. Now let's turn on the rest of it, the gutters, the colored lines, and let's see. For some reason I got 2 gutters. Let's get rid of one of these here. There we go. All right. I wound up with I guess, oh, okay. This one's got a little bit sharper edge. All right, so let's, okay. Sorry about that. I had an unnecessary layer here, but I just got rid of one of them. And here's the black lines, all right? Let's back off a little bit here. Now you can see kind of what I'm going through, okay? Got his hair, his glasses. I didn't bother to color those glasses green yet. Some of the piping on the edge of his patch, his rocker patch on the top, the fire of the patch, okay, the button. And this is a method in another video I demonstrate how to work this, but all that color is there. It's just being masked off by a layer mask, okay? And now let's turn on the one immediately underneath. And again, I numbered these 1 through 11, so we'll turn on the one next, okay? All right, now you can see stuff that exists underneath it. Like, let's say I want to color this patch a tan color, light tan color. So I'll go to the brush. I'm going 100% opaque, hard brush. I'll choose a tan color over here. And then it's Command right click on a Mac. See how it pops up there? It's choice of 1 layer, 2 layer. I go to layer 1 and see how I'm going around it, but it's not going any further, right? This pipe, this fuzzy edge on his jacket is part of layer 1, so let's color pick that, and I'll go ahead and finish filling that out, okay? Now the jacket, I'll pick that color, and now I right click with the Command key. I said Option key before. It's the Command key. It's the one that looks like a clover leaf. Okay. Come on. There we go. And you see how I can go in and clean up. I'm in layer 2. I didn't pick a color for his glove, so let's go ahead and pick like a brown. And I don't know what layer it is, so I'll hit Command, right click. It's in layer 1. All right. And it's not a perfect system in that, look, you know, boom, I made a mistake. You got to kind of stay close to the area you're working on. But that's kind of how the whole page works. You're basically taking each messy layer and you're cleaning it up. All right, so that's how you use these layers in concert with each other. And it really helps out when you're working on setting these up, when you're flattening the page, because okay, you're making this very specific and very defined top layer, and then you underneath it, think of it as like the bottom layer is like stickers and the top layers are stickers on top of the stickers, okay? And so it's covering up what is underneath it. So your next task when you're creating when you're flattening the page is to mark off stuff that's underneath layer 1, and then it's called layer 2, then layer 3. And so by the time, let me go way down to layer 7 here. I'll just show that by itself. You notice how it, like this layer, it's only defining stuff way in the background behind everything. So they get less and less detailed. So let me I'll turn on each layer as I go. Okay, so you got the top layer, okay? Stuff that's underneath that top layer. little more. Okay, now we got his jacket. And then the edges have been defined already by the time you're getting to layer 5, 6, 7 underneath. And you're thinking about your comic book page structurally, so that by the time you get down to layer 10, 11, the last few layers, you're really just doing like the sky and the ground. Okay? And then there's another layer that I have that's hidden, and I call that panel pick. And panel pick is taking each panel and going a little bit further out. It's selecting a area of color that you want to work in. Like, for example, if you're working on the ground on panel 1 here, let's turn everything back on again. Okay? And you go on the panel pick, the selection tool, and you select it. We have our marching ants. That means we're only going to be coloring inside of this selection. That way, if you're coloring, say, the ground here, it's not going to interfere with the floor inside the garage here. They're probably on the same layer. You want to keep working inside the panel. All right. So, okay, so let's begin. Let's work on cleaning this up and finishing it using the tools that I showed. So what I like to do is start with the sky, anything that's in the way, way, way background. So pick out the brush tool. Eyedropper will select a dark color and a light color. We have the 2 selections right here. You also have recents up here. This is really useful. But let's go with a 50% soft brush, and it's doing the symbol where you can't work on it because you're picking a layer that's not available. So it's locked. So we'll do Command right click, layer 11. Now we're in layer 11, and I have my brush tool, and I'm just going to go back and forth. Okay. Then I'll hit the X, so go with a little darker blue. So I really just picked out. You can highlight the selection, the chip, and go and move that a little further. There we go. Now let's do the clouds. So I'll go with a 50% hard brush this time, because I like that look where it's kind of a watercolor. Command right click. Now it's layer 7. I'm in layer 7. And that's pretty much all the clouds up there. Okay. I'm just clicking and clicking and clicking with the mouse, painting and painting. Let's pick that white color up on top. The key is not to get too fussy. You're thinking about the word balloons, and basic is better. Now let's go do the roof here. And I can keep it in 50%. It just means you got to work at it longer, a couple strokes. And that's actually on layer 1. Okay. And you can see how it's really easy to go in and start cleaning things up. And one of the most frustrating things I came across when starting out coloring pages is by thinking of, what color should go where each little thing as you're building it. And it's a lot easier it's a lot easier to just start out intentionally being messy with all the colors, and you're just putting stuff in. You notice I didn't even bother with the clipboard here, and there's some things, well, I'll just take care of them later. But you pull back, you pull back, you pull back, and it's basically there. The colors are about right what you want, and that's so much easier when you've broken this up into the colors that should be there, and just going through the process of cleaning up your layers. And the final thing I'll have to say about this is once you've gotten all the layers that are good, you've cleaned everything up and you're ready, you just simply take all the color layers here and you merge them all together as one color thing. You don't keep the layer masks, you don't need them anymore. And so that's about it. You know, that's where it kind of makes it into a fun project. One last thing before I go, there is, let me see if I can demonstrate it here. There is an aspect where, okay, yeah, this panel right here is a good example, the second one. Notice how I held off Gary, I held off putting any detail on him until layer 3, layer 4, until layer 4, okay? What I can do then, if I want to, I can create, either create a new layer where I can just make everything in the hand and the beer can darker, like in silhouette. Or I could go in and darken each little component here. There's the logo on the beer. Let's see, what is there? We got the hand and little frosty drops, okay. Then we have, yeah, the lettering on the beer can. Then underneath that we have the beer can itself. Okay. So either you can go into each little piece and darken it to put it in shadow, or you can do something where you insert a new layer that's just going to affect everything down here. And that's where I think the way I flat pages, the way I set them up here, is an advantage over the way most comic book pages are set up, is that I'm dealing with three-dimensional space a little bit here, and it makes it a more interesting and compelling kind of image. It really worked in another comic book panel where I had a few bikers in the background, and because I had the foreground ones were on a different layer, I did kind of insert a foggy, misty patch of color that really brought everything together. And that's about it. I don't have any further things. Any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I'll answer them as best I can. Thank you very much for watching this, and we'll get back to me talking to the camera. Okay, so that showed you the process. Let's go back to that page real quick, and I'll just show you the finished product so you can see what I was talking about. Here's the finished page with the lettering and the word balloons all included. Let's take a look here at that top panel that I was describing to you working in Photoshop. This is Illustrator actually, and the bottommost layer here is the Photoshop layer, with the layers above it being the word balloons and the dialogue. But you get a really clear idea of what I'm talking about in terms of going into the different layers, different components, and cleaning things up, trusting the layer mask to be defining the edges, but also it's important to go through that first rendition, that rough color kind of rendition, to just lay down stuff that that makes sense. Again, it looks like I did do a little bit of darkness on the hand of the beer can there to separate him as he's standing in front of the garage door. Um, Notice how there's a lot of shit here. There's a lot of stuff where, like the door itself and the sky. What else? The guy's clipboard I was talking about earlier, right here. You don't see it there. He's holding it here. There's a lot of stuff where you're just simply not going to see it. You know, it's just going to get covered up by a word balloon. And the word balloons, that's something I'm actually in the penciling stage when I'm designing the comic book. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking, okay, there's a lot of talking here, say in this panel, so I got to leave room. Treat the word balloons almost like they're another character in your story. So you got the guy, what he's saying, the other guy, what he's saying. In the first panel, I kept the talking to a minimum. He's just talking to himself briefly, nothing else, because I wanted the rest of the panel to help establish the location and to tell the story that the Banshees Motorcycle Club is forced to work out of a garage here to have their meeting. So, yeah, that is really kind of what the page looks like when you get all the parts put back together. The more you work on these pages, the more you can get an intuitive understanding of the importance of kind of keeping things simple and deferring things to a basic kind of structure. What you're doing is you're not really making a painting, you're telling a story. And the more simple and harmonious the colors work together, the faster the page, the panel, the artwork scans, the faster the reader can take it into, assimilate it. And they're paying more attention to the characters talking and what they're saying rather than, oh, how pretty that motorcycle, that motor. Don't make everything so pretty where you keep the reader from reading your comic book. Okay, that's about it. Back to me talking. There you have it. I hope that was useful. Again, this video is probably best for those using Photoshop already. Feel free to put questions you may have in the comments and I'll answer them as best I can. Don't forget to hit the like icon and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I encourage anyone who wants to create a comic, whether it's in the writing or the art, to keep working at it. You'll only get better if you stay working on your dreams. Thank you.